I want to start off actually with some great news and some wonderful congratulations, and I'll apologize in advance if it's a fairly long list. And there may be things that I'm missing as well, but I wanted to do at least a quick overview. First off, to the Law and Social Media class, congratulations on winning a Claw Bee. I don't know whether you're aware of Claw Bees, but they are in Category 4. This is the first time a faculty blog has won an award other than an academic award. This year's group got the, quote, Change and Advocacy Award. So their work continues through this term. Keep up the good work, and congratulations. The Law and Business Association co-hosted with my office last week a Law and Innovation Conference, which is all about the future of technology. We had one of the chief officers from Ross Intelligence, the Director of Knowledge Management from Bennett Jones, Veritas Litigation Support Services, complete with drone videos. It was a wonderful conference. It was sold out. It's available online, or should be available online soon. It was getting a lot of attention from the legal community and from elsewhere. I'm just back from meetings in Calgary yesterday. They'd heard about it. So congratulations to Alec McElwraith-Black, Dylan Gibbs, who were the chairs of it, but also to the entire Law and Business Association organizing committee. Well done. I want to offer congratulations to Professor Barbara Billingsley. Part of the reason why I was in Calgary yesterday was actually to attend the Law Society of Alberta and Canadian Bar Association Alberta Distinguished Service Awards. And Professor Billingsley was honored this year with the Distinguished Service Award in Legal Scholarship, which is a wonderful tribute to the contributions that she's made to scholarship and dissemination of research activity, not only here at the faculty, but with the profession nationally and internationally. So congratulations to Professor Billingsley. I also want to offer congratulations. Since the last time we met, Gloria Strathern was recognized with a university-wide staff award, a wonderful celebration and a tribute to Gloria's wonderful work for the faculty and for our students for so many years. So Gloria's here with us this afternoon. Thanks very much and congratulations. A couple of sort of mixed blessing congratulations. Mixed blessing because they're wonderful opportunities for the people involved, but it means that they're actually moving in a different direction or away from us. Stella Varvis announced to the Legal Writing Fellows yesterday that she's accepted a position as legal counsel with the Alberta Law Reform Institute. So she'll be in the building, but she'll be leaving the faculty in her current role. Stella has done a marvelous job with us in terms of retooling legal research and writing over the last couple of years, as well as working very closely with us on the complete revitalization of the moot program in the last 3 years. When I first arrived, we had maybe 35 trying out for competitive moot teams. This year, over 100. Hosted the Jessup last year. We're hosting some national competitions. I can tell you from talking to other deans and other people across the country, UAlberta mooting is back on the map. So in that respect, at least, it's really quite wonderful. It's a great opportunity for Stella and a great opportunity for ALRI. One of the things I've been working with Sandra Peterson, who's the executive director of ALRI on, is building closer bridges between ALRI and the faculty. And one of the things Professor Wood is working on that I think we're in the process of getting close to announce, if it hasn't been announced already, will be one of our student externships will be with the Alberta Law Reform Institute, which will give students an opportunity to work very closely on a number of the really interesting projects that they are involved with. So congratulations to Stella. I just learned today as well that Heather Richholt is going to be leaving us to move into the office of the General Faculties Council. Heather has been with us for 3 years and change, working in admissions and helping us, again, completely transform that office and operation. Most of you, well, many of you may not have had contact directly with Heather, but believe you me, she's had contact with at least your file. And so in that respect, at least, Heather, thank you very much. Best wishes. You'll be leaving, moving across the university campus in mid-February. I should let you know as well that Stella has actually, fortunately, and I thank Sandra Peterson as well, she'll be finishing out the term and the moot season and will be transitioning to ALRI in May. And so that gives us time to advertise and to transition as well. So Heather, congratulations and best of luck. Tasneem Karbani, who is with the Center for Constitutional Studies, is returning to practice after doing some wonderful work with Pat Parody in the CCS, and we wish her very well. A couple of other transitions congratulations, one of which I'll be attending tomorrow, is the official swearing in of the Honorable Mr. Justice Stephen Manziuk. Steve has served as a member of our External Advisory Board. He's the past president of the Canadian Bar Association Alberta. for the last 2.5 years was a member of our strategic planning process and is a wonderful judge. And so in that respect, at least, we value and appreciate his contributions to the faculty and our transformation. And last but certainly not least, I want to offer two career services-related congratulations. One to the Law Students for Inclusion and Diversity for hosting a terrific session with representatives from BLG, and to Career Services itself for the 1L firm reception. Over 120 students, about 60 firm representatives, wonderful opportunity. And that allows me to transition into one really important update on Career Services and on hiring, which is something that I know is top of mind for many. And it's something that we've been working on very closely now that we've got a Director of Career Services. We've continued to have Pat's support and continue to undertake our efforts in that area. Got an update this week on the class of 2017. 95% of those who were seeking articling positions have them. That's phenomenal news in a downturn. So congratulations to Career Services on that. It's taken some creative doing in that respect. The opportunity for students to engage in composite articles, to spend time with different firms, has really made a fundamental difference. And the biggest growth area that we've been tracking in the last couple of years is in firms in Alberta, notably, with 2 to 10 lawyers. Those are the ones who are growing and taking on our students in that respect. Calgary is still in a downturn, and Calgary hiring has shrunk from levels that it was, say, in 2011, 2012. I don't know that it's going to fundamentally, things are starting to look better, but they're very cautious about things coming back. So there are other growth opportunities. It shows again that our students are valued and appreciated. People know the quality of the education that you're getting and the kinds of qualities that you're bringing to practice. Numbers in Vancouver as well. I spend a fair bit of time back and forth to Vancouver because about 15 to 20% of our incoming class is coming from the Lower Mainland and wants to head back. Again, our alumni out there want to make sure that they're getting the best of the student body that we can offer. And so for those of you who are looking for opportunities in Vancouver, or across BC. We had a number of students placed in, I believe, Kelowna and Vernon, Kamloops, in other centers across British Columbia. That remains a growth opportunity and a growth market for us as well. The update this week, 70% of the graduating class this year already have positions. That may sound like, and we still have indeed some work to do, but that's well ahead of where we were last year. So the baseline, I think at graduation last year, we were at about 70 to 75%. So we're a couple of months ahead of where we were last year. That bodes really well. And so for those of you who are still looking for articling positions, please make sure that you're contacting John or the Career Services office about revising your strategy or about how we can end up assisting you to make sure that you get across the finish line. For those of you who are in 1L and 2L, this is great news, because it means that in terms of where the market is going, where our students are actually heading, if you're not getting a summer job out of 1L, your life is not over. In that respect, at least, firms, again, have been rethinking the way in which they're offering their summer programs. And so in that respect, look at the opportunity that you might have in the summertime to do something different, something interesting, something creative, and also work with Career Services about positioning for the articling hunt in future years. So it's great news, particularly in light of a difficult economic situation that is gradually turning around. Also wanted to talk about faculty hiring, which is of great interest to everybody. We do it as a closed process, which is why you haven't heard about candidate talks or any kind of public forums in that regard. We keep it within faculty circles only. That's been our tradition here. We had a record number of applicants for positions this year, about 85 solid applications from candidates all over North America. Increasing number of women applying, increasing number of international applicants. This is all really good news. This is the record number in certainly the last 3 years of hiring. We've interviewed thus far 15 candidates, and I'm hoping to be able to announce some hiring positions, or at least a conclusion to the process, probably by about the end of February, beginning of March. But let's just say it's gone really well. People are excited about what's happening here. With any luck, by the end of this cycle of hiring, over the last 3 years, we'll have hired at 9 to 10 positions, which is about a third of the faculty in terms of renewal in the last 3 years. These are really exciting young scholars who are bringing energy, creative ideas, all sorts of interesting experience, and I want to thank as well Kim Gosel and the students who have actually participated in a confidential process interviewing some of the candidates who have come through. I thought it really important when we were starting the faculty hiring process to make sure that students had input not only on as a representative on the committee, but also in terms of talking to the faculty candidates about what their interaction would be like in the classroom, outside of the classroom, and the feedback has been very helpful to the Advisory Selection Committee. So thank you, Kim, and to the team. Student Services, I haven't had a chance in a public forum yet to welcome Ray Beaumont, who joined us as team lead, Student Services from Pharmacy. A lot of experience, a lot of creative ideas, and as we continue, and as I continue to make investing in student services a real priority, Ray will help us indeed in that area. A couple things we're working on right now. As you know, Kamal Kumar departed last fall. She's in a direct counseling position at NATE, and it's a wonderful transition and an opportunity for her, particularly as she was achieving her professional goals in that regard. We've had to retool somewhat the student life coordinator position description, and that is, I've certainly approved it. I think it's in the HR process right now, and so we'll be engaging in the hiring process in the very near term to have somebody in place as soon as we possibly can. As well, I'm working on, we had put out and had approved what we call an RFP, a request for proposals for an Indigenous student, academic and professional advisor. That process had to change, and so we've rethought it. I've gotten some new input and ideas, notably from what they're doing at Osgoode, at Ottawa, and Lakehead, and so that position will be advertised shortly. And again, we'll get somebody in place ideally as soon as possible, and certainly to provide support through the end of the term and exam season. One of the things that I've also worked on and continue to work on is ASSIST. We know that it's a really important support for students. ASSIST, for those of you who don't know, is the program offered by the Canadian Bar Association Alberta and the Law Society of Alberta that provides psychological counseling and referral services. Students are able to access those services. We launched a pilot here 2 years ago with support from ASSIST for an on-site counselor and referral service. We don't have enough time in terms of the service they're providing, so I'm talking to ASSIST about buying more time, if we can, and making that investment so we can at least double, if not ideally quadruple that service. And so ASSIST has just gone through a transition. One of our key supporters in that respect had been their executive director, Marion D'Souza, now Judge Marion D'Souza of the Provincial Court in Calgary. So I'm waiting for a meeting with their new executive director, but they like what we're doing. University of Calgary Law has copied us. I'm sometimes a little concerned about the rivalry, but this is a good one. I'm happy to share great ideas in that regard, particularly if it's bringing support. I was actually at the CBA President's Dinner the other night and speaking with the Law Society of Alberta President, who himself is very committed to mental health and wellness issues. He's a terrific supporter. We continue to raise money for the O'Boyle Memorial Mental Health and Wellness Fund, and I'm happy to report continuing progress at the end of the year on that. Our target's $100,000. I really want to achieve that by the end of this year. I spent a lot of time working on development and on fundraising. Very pleased that what we were able to do this year was again provide about $1.2 million in scholarships and bursaries. I'm out talking to folks all the time about the kind of support that they can provide, either very directly in terms of a financial contribution, a legacy gift, or in other ways. And so that's part of the job of a dean, is to do some fundraising. Very pleased to report that in 3.5 years, I've raised over $6.5 million against about a $4.7 million target. So we're gonna keep it going. We now have Jillian Reed supporting us as Assistant Director of Development, and we're gonna be advertising for a new Assistant Dean Development shortly. The kind of effort that we've made and the funds that we've raised have actually been without continuous staff support. So just imagine what we can do. And I've been working with the central administration on 3 large ideas for an upcoming university-wide campaign, one of which I'll tell you about at this stage, and we've been in some early dialogue about an experiential learning center. We know that SLS and Emily Murphy House, in terms of its situation, hasn't been ideal. I've proposed, I talk about it, but it's still early, that we actually look to space at Enterprise Square and that we turn that into an experiential learning hub. So it's early days, early stages, but I think it's a great opportunity for us and for the provision of legal aid support to people who need it right downtown. So that's going to be a few years in the making. We've had constructive discussions with SLS about it, and we'll continue along in that direction. We've also got a proposal in for an Indigenous law chair and some other ideas that we're working on for centers and institutes here at the faculty. So those are some of the big projects that we'll be talking about probably over the next 6 months. In terms of additional course offerings, we know that it's always a challenge. One of the things that, as we finish the strategic planning process, will be a next step is curriculum reform. And so hopefully we won't get caught in that vortex of curriculum reform and dialogue and discussions. We know that we need to take a look at the 1L curriculum. We need to take a look at the upper year curriculum. That was a message that was loud and clear. This past fall, we had 4 working groups taking the strategic plan that was approved in principle last May and saying, what do we need to do and who needs to be tasked with it? And so 3 working groups led by faculty members. 1, the student experience group, was led by Dylan Gibbs. And so we've got a lot of ideas and frankly a bit of a checklist that we're going to be starting to work through. In the meantime though, experiential learning remains really important and we're trying to expand those offerings. You will have seen notification about an Oceans Law opportunity with Professor Jeffries. We're trying to finalize an opportunity with Tech Edmonton. There are a few others that are in the works, so stay tuned in that respect. The other thing that I think is really important, and tying it back to faculty hiring, is that we know that there have been some bottlenecks in terms of courses and course offerings. Bringing on board new faculty was identified by students and by me back in 2014 as the #1 priority. With more faculty, we can have more course offerings, more opportunities for you to get the courses you need in the sequence that you need. We'll be working with student services as well to see about how we can do academic counseling and sort of course mapping for you as we end up moving forward. We've had some initial dialogues. Most people can sort it out themselves, but faculty are very interested as well in doing lunchtime sessions with and for you to say, if you're interested in this area, what kinds of courses do you want to take in what sequence and how will that end up helping you? So we'll be looking for a few of those sessions this spring. One of the other updates related to hiring that's going to be important for everyone is the future of articling. And I've been engaged in discussions with the Law Society of BC, the Prairie Law Societies, the Prairie Law Deans, the Canadian Council of Law Deans, and the Law Society of Upper Canada. Basically, and in short, Alberta thus far has said no change. They've hired a new director of CPLED who is going to be starting in March. There will be some updates with respect to, I think, some minor changes to CPLED, but everybody's kind of waiting right now to see what Ontario does. There was a proposal about 1.5 years ago spring, I guess almost 2 years now, from a certain group of benchers at the Law Society of Upper Canada, now the Law Society of Ontario, to permit people to truncate articles or shorten their articles if they did a certain number of hours of quote unquote approved experiential learning opportunities, end quote, during law school. Part of the problem was they hadn't talked to the law deans, they hadn't talked to the firms, and so everybody was saying, like, what is this and what does it look like? So they took that back and then embarked on a 2-year, quote unquote, dialogue on licensing. They've got a real set of issues in Ontario. We've got challenges here, but in Ontario, the market is saturated. Law school space has expanded quite rapidly. When I was teaching at Queen's between 2004 and 2008, we admitted about 150, 155, maybe 160 students. They're now at 220. Ottawa expanded. Windsor expanded. So you've got a lot more graduates coming out. You have a new law school coming in Ryerson that's going to be starting up. Plus you have all sorts of foreign graduates, foreign trained graduates who are seeking articles, can't get them, and are going through the Ryerson Law Practice Program. So lots of discussion in Ontario about what the future of articling ends up looking like. I'm part of those discussions because I know that about 10% of our cohort comes from and wants to head back to Ontario. The dialogue with the Law Society of British Columbia has basically been, we have the best transition to practice program in the country. We don't plan on really changing it. Okay, great for UBC. Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta have been in a constructive dialogue with the law deans and the regulators. So if there's any significant change, I will let you know as soon as I know. But thus far, at least, it's sort of status quo, steady on. And that's one of the things I think has been really productive. We sent the signal to the Law Society about the need for some flexibility on composite articles. They listened, and it's made a huge difference. So we have a good working relationship with them. We're pleased to have that continue. 2 final notes, and then I want to open it to questions. There's been a lot of discussion around the university's budget. and a lot of dialogue, some stories in the Edmonton Journal that catch even a law dean by surprise, about announcements on various things. The university has confirmed that there will be basically an across-the-board 4.5% cut for next year. There was dialogue and discussion about subsequent years, a 2.5% and 2.5% cut. That was never actually approved by the deans, and so there is a rethinking. I think there's some benchmarking going on. Part of the difficulty on the larger picture, see, we don't know yet what the provincial government's going to do. Still waiting for that kind of confirmation. Now, for us, the situation's been great. When the tuition increase was approved in 2014 and then walked back in 2015, the current provincial government made a commitment for at least a couple of years to make us whole. And so they have engaged in some base budget backfilling for us. That has allowed the hiring to take place, has allowed us to continue to grow and to actually continue to admit about 180 students. One of the things that I've been trying to work through, and our budget year starts April 1st, so I'm in that cycle right now as I'm looking at February 1st and thinking, okay, where am I going to put the numbers on the page? I'm just kind of continuing on. The 4.5% cut, I continue to try and manage really carefully. My goal throughout has been not to eliminate any staff positions and to keep things and services as fundamentally strong as we can, and indeed to enhance them where possible. And so in that respect, at least, I was engaged in what they call a tour of deans. It's not as exciting as it sounds. A set of discussions with the central administration in December. So while you were all preparing for exams, I was kind of going through an exam process of my own. Lots of slides, lots of numbers. Essentially, what we were trying to do was predict forward. And so I've got a good sense and a good idea. And basically, it's let's continue, ducks on a pond. Kind of paddling furiously underneath, but things are calm right now and looking good for where we are and the kind of ideas that we'd mapped out in terms of expansion. One of the analogies that I've used, or images that I've used, is taking my foot off the accelerator a little bit. I've been known to be ambitious and try and move things forward as quickly as we can. We may have to actually slow down that progress a little bit. I'd like to do more hiring. I'd like to do it more quickly. We may have to actually back off a little bit. That'll give us the opportunity to integrate the new people who are coming on board as well. So in that respect, at least, stay tuned. But I will let you know as soon as I know about anything particularly significant that will have a fundamental change to what we're doing here at the faculty. Again, I caution that we don't know yet what the provincial government will end up doing. We know that they're dealing with a number of fiscal challenges. I'm saying this truly in a nonpartisan context. One of the things, though, that I wouldn't expect if I had to muse out loud about any political group coming into an election cycle, I can't see that a massive tuition increase would be something that they would be promoting necessarily, but maybe that's just me. So in that respect, at least, no signals about tuition, a significant tuition change in the near-term future. And so in that respect, again, as well, one of the things that I've continued to advocate is that tuition needs to be equitable, that we need to make sure that we've got adequate resources, but at the same time that affordability and access are top of mind, and so that there needs to be a reinvestment, if things are going up, in continued scholarships and bursaries. That's why I also continue to do the work that I'm doing on fundraising to make sure that that can happen. I'm going to stop there. As you know, I can probably talk a lot longer, usually without a breath, but I want to leave at least a little bit of time and know that many of you have classes, so feel free to go at this stage. If there's more pizza, grab another one. But happy to throw it open to any questions at this stage. Yes, in the back.
You mentioned a lot of law schools, especially in Ontario, are expanding how many students they're accepting. Are there any plans like that to do that here?
So one of the things that I made a commitment in the dialogue with the students back in 2014 was to freeze the class size for 4 years, so that the entering class would be, the entering 1L class would be 180 plus minus. There's a little bit of flex on that, just depending on sometimes over admitting, sometimes some transfers out. My intention has been to stay at that number and to keep it there. If anything, I would be looking at trying to shrink the entering class size if there are some significant challenges for us. But thus far, at least, the plan certainly for next year, and I would think for 2 years coming on, is to keep the entering class at roughly 180. And so the total complement at about 525. One of the areas we are looking at, and actually came through 3 external reviews last year, they're mandatory sort of 5-year reviews that didn't happen the last 5 years around, so I got to do them. Of both the JD program and the graduate program, this is for Campus Alberta Quality Assurance, passed with flying colors. There was this discussion, though, and that there's going to be a faculty dialogue about expanding the size or how we end up looking at the graduate program, particularly since we launched the PhD program in 2009. This was the first time it's been reviewed. Enormously successful. We've placed a lot of people out of that program into professorships. So the question becomes, what can we sustain and afford in that respect? But around the JD program, no talk about major expansion in that regard. Any other questions? Pizza coma. No, I mean, one of the things is, in all seriousness, I'm glad to be able to bring good news. That hasn't always been the case over the last couple of years because of the economic circumstances, because of the hiring. I will say as well, and I owe a debt of gratitude to our alumni, because one of the things that, again, I've been pushing is where they can't give funds or aren't willing to for whatever reason, I said take a student. Take a student for 3 months, take a student for 4 months, and they've really stepped up in that regard. And I know that Pat's been working really hard with a lot of them, with a lot of the folks in government as well, to create those opportunities. John coming on board as well, reinvigorating some of our approaches. So that's made a big difference. And so I'll keep an eye on what's happening with articling. Again, if I need to call a special town hall, if there's any kind of announcement, but thus far at least, I'm not expecting anything in particular from the Law Society of Alberta, and certainly not from BC. Okay, seeing no other questions, we'll leave it there. I'll make myself available if you want to come up and talk directly. Thank you all very much for coming. Appreciate it.